The first anniversary of the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol is upon us. Of course, a group of Trump supporters storming the Capitol, seeking to overturn his defeat in the 2020 election, disrupting a session of Congress that was assembled to try to count the electoral votes. So a lot of questions have come up that day about Capitol security and politics. I am here with Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who was there on the day that the mob attacked the Capitol. Thanks for joining us and sharing your story. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience that day?
Thanks a lot, Ann. Yes, that January 6th was a horrific moment in our nation's history. And it was traumatic for especially those of us who were sitting right there on the floor of Congress and in the gallery. And I was sitting right there in front of the podium. And in fact, we knew that something was going on because people were texting us and the security people were moving around. And finally, we were told that we needed to put our gas masks on and possibly hit the floor. But right after that, we were told to evacuate quickly. And it was only seconds getting out of the chamber that the insurrectionists came and started beating down the door to the speaker's lobby. And that would have been a mass casualty event had we been in there. But let me just say to you, as a Black American, my antennas are always up, Ann. And so I had been reading and hearing these right-wing blogs. That's data point one, before January 6th. I know who Donald Trump is with his hostile and violent rhetoric and actions. We know that. And in fact, we know these very violent groups that are out there. So I put two and two together, not knowing what would take place, but knowing something was going to go down, never thinking what went down would be this violent and tragic. But I actually wore my tennis shoes that day, again, because I just knew that there were possibilities that I didn't even want to think about, but I was going to be there to witness the peaceful transfer of power as one of our leadership members on the leadership team. And so never did I think that the peaceful transfer of power would almost be thwarted through a coup. And this is what it was. It was an attempted coup.
So 1 year later, still so many questions out there. What would you, at this point, most like to see answered?
Well, what I want to see answered, first of all, those who perpetrated, planned, and executed this attempted coup need to be brought to justice. No one is above the law. And so I'm thankful that Chairman Benny Thompson and the committee is moving forward, gathering the facts. Soon there will be public hearings and we'll lay out exactly what happened so that we will have a good, and the public will know exactly who did what, when, and where. Secondly, we've got to protect our democracy. And so I think January 6th really showed what for the fragile nature of our democracy, but it also showed how resilient we are because we survived that. And I was there until 3:34 a.m. when Vice President Pence, read off the last electoral states in terms of the vote for President Joe Biden. So I was there because we did withstand this horrible attempted coup. Thirdly, we have to use every legal mechanism. I'm the lead plaintiff in a lawsuit. There, I think about 10 of us against Donald Trump and all of those organizations that brought this violent attack to the Capitol. Monday, the Trump crowd, they're gonna try to move for a dismissal of the case in the DC courts. And so we're working on a variety of strategies that are at our disposal to make sure, one, that it never happens again, but two, that we protect our democracy. Three, we've got to pass the Voting Rights Act, the John Lewis Voting Advancement Act, as well as the Freedom to Vote Act. We've got to address gerrymandering and how they're now, since January 6th, taken on this political role in terms of trying to actually take over our democracy and lead us into a dictatorship, which is very scary to me. And so this is a wake-up call. And I want people to learn and understand this is a wake-up call because all of the signs are here of what the awful possibilities could be if we don't win and secure our democracy.
So speaking of, right now, there are hundreds of people, some of the perpetrators still out there right now waiting to be identified. Many of them likely never will be, including one person at least who planted pipe bombs. How safe do you feel at the Capitol right now?
Well, let me say we are there doing our job. We have to do our job on behalf of the American people. The security operation, our Capitol Police they have actually really done a great job in terms of increasing security, increasing intelligence gathering, increasing the coordination between police and intelligence organizations. They have secured the Capitol in a way that shows that there's progress, but you can't be 100%. We have to make sure that Capitol is secure for the public, for staff, for members, for workers, for everyone. This is the center, the citadel of democracy. We can't have our young people taking tours of the Capitol be vulnerable to a violent attack. And so we're doing everything we can do to make sure that it's accessible and open, but that the security precautions are there. But this is a dangerous world, and no one is going to look at it through rose-colored glasses and think that the dangers are not there. But we have to do everything we can do to mitigate against them and to move forward and secure our democracy, because I believe, and I'm very optimistic, that we're going to be able to do that. But no one said it was going to be easy.
Yeah, so there is legislation in the works in the future, at least, talking about how to make sure this doesn't happen again. What might that specifically include?
Well, right now, in the immediate, okay, we have to make sure that people are not denied the right to vote. And that is, in essence, the basic tenet, in many respects, of our democracy. And so immediately, we have to pass voting rights legislation. The constitutional right to vote is being taken away from millions of people, and so we've got to do that like now. Because otherwise, now with the gerrymandering, we have to have legal recourse for these districts that have been written and drawn to exclude people, not include people, but to exclude people. And so these are the fundamentals that we have to work on immediately, and we have to get this passed. And so I support ending the filibuster, but whatever it's going to take for Senator Schumer to put forth a carve around, or whatever they can do to get Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema to support protecting our democracy and securing our democracy, we need to do that. They need to do that right away.
Now, the Voting Rights Act that you're talking about, perhaps giving people more opportunities to vote, but that's some of the fuel to the fire that was behind these attacks. People saying that people are voting falsely and that this is being counted wrong. So would that really help what we're talking about here?
Yeah, no, it will help. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about voter access. What they have done and what they're trying to do in the states is engage in voter suppression, keeping people from voting. For example, taking away weekend voting, Sunday voting, taking away vote by mail, doing everything they can do to make sure they suppress the vote, specifically with people of color, African Americans, our seniors, young people, people in rural communities. So this is not what they're talking about. This is taking away the right to vote, our constitutional right to vote. And that in itself is what we see taking place everywhere. And finally, let me just say, when you do that, you set up a system that's very undemocratic, which leads to a dictatorship. And that's the danger that we're faced with now. And so we have to do everything we can do to pass voting rights and the freedom to vote. We've got to get the money out of politics. That's essential. Dark money. We don't, in many respects, we see campaigns being funded by dark money where we never know where those funds are coming from. And so we've got to pass these two bills and make sure that people's constitutional rights are protected.
So obviously things were very volatile 1 year ago today. How, if any, do you think the political climate has changed since then?
Well, of course, people have dug in a lot of respects. You know, when you see the Republicans and the Republicans who really know that President Biden won, those who really, and they tell you in private, they know, but they just can't, support that. I think that the lies that have been perpetrated now have seeped in to the psyche. If not the psyche, they've seeped into the messaging of many Republicans who normally would accept the peaceful transfer of power and the election results. There were many lawsuits. None of those lawsuits held up. And so the shame of it in terms of what has happened since January 6th is more voter suppression laws have been passed to deny people the right to vote. And more Republicans have been very clear that they support Donald Trump and are trying to deny that President Biden won, and have believed and talked about and supported the big lie, when in fact they know it's not true. And they tell us that they tell me that. I have many Republican friends. They tell me that each and every day. And that is really a very dangerous and very disappointing place for people to be, I think, because it speaks truly to their commitment to our democracy.
So yeah, you seem to be saying it's gotten more caustic, which is concerning.
Yes, much more. You see Donald Trump's supporters who have dug in and broadened it to where even more moderate Republicans who never would have accepted what took place in terms of the attempt to overthrow the government, that's what it was, never would have supported that, are supporting that now.
All right. Anything else you'd like to share about that day, reflecting, or in the future?
Well, I'm saying hopefully we'll have this discussion again in my district tomorrow and on January 6th, on the day that we're commemorating, to talk about where do we go from here. Young people are very concerned, and we have young people talking about their future and what we need to do to secure their future. And this is about us being a resilient country, but also a fragile country in terms of our democracy. And so we have to make some decisions. And I think the most important thing right now is to make sure voting rights and gerrymandering in the political system is solidified, so that we don't end up in a dictatorial form of government, which we know the signs are all here, given what we know in Hungary and throughout Europe. And that is a very dangerous moment to be. So I'm optimistic. Our young people are optimistic. We just have to do the work, and we have to move forward.
East Bay Congresswoman Barbara Lee, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Nice being with you.